Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm your host for today, Pavitra Reddy, and this event is organized by Vaya Vikas on the Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Before we move on to our main topic, I would like to give you a brief on Vaya Vikas. Vaya Vikas is a registered trust with a dream to build and strengthen an ecosystem for seniors that empowers the seniors to lead a productive and meaningful life. We are a community of senior citizen members enabled through an online platform with a focus on wide range of services, starting with legal, financial, health, wellness, and engagement. Moving on, I would like to go over a few aspects on how to participate in today's event. It would be an hour and 30-minute session. We will listen on the topic from our speakers, followed by a Q&A sessions. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenters by typing your questions into the chat window. We would also be talking about the launch of our free legal advisory services called Scales, which will be presented by our board member, Professor Nandiman. You can also send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them at the end of the session if you're not able to cover them before that. I request each one of you to mute your devices once we start the session. Today is known as Elder Abuse Awareness Day. The statistics on senior citizens abuse is overwhelming. 1 in 6 elderly are experiencing some form of abuse this very minute. By 2050, the count will be 330 million abused elderly. For perspective, making it the size of US population as it stands today. This does not bode well for our future. Elder abuse is one of the most under-researched human rights violation, though it is one of the fastest emerging form of abuse. Its identification, management, and prevention requires acknowledgement of the problem to begin with. To discuss about this today, hence we have a very eminent speakers who will be talking about these topics and introducing us to this. Please welcome Justice S.R. Banurmat. He is the former Chief Justice of Kerala High Court and he was the chairman of the Maharashtra State Human Rights Commission from September 2013 to January 2018. He is the current chairman of the Law Commission of Karnataka and past chairperson of the Maharashtra State Human Rights Commission. The other speaker is Dr. Soumya Hegde, who is a geriatric psychiatrist with nearly 2 decades of experience working with seniors with mental illnesses. She has been trained in India and UK. Her area of interest and expertise is the management of challenging behaviors in dementia through a holistic approach, which includes medication, supportive psychotherapy, individualized care plans, and caregiver training. Thank you and welcome to both Justice S.R. Banurmat and Soumya Hegde, Dr. Soumya Hegde. Can you please turn on your videos? I would like to now call upon Justice S.R. Banurmat to talk about what is senior abuse and what are the recourses available.
It is not on.
Pavitra, we are not able to turn the video on. You've turned it off.
Host has stopped it. This message is.
1 minute, let me try.
Yes. Yes. Now.
So could you try turning it on?
Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
it's on. Good afternoon, everybody. At the outset, let me congratulate Vaya Vikas, especially the founding members like Dr. Alex, Chris Gopalakrishnan, Professor Nandiman, Dr. Devi Shetty, Pavitra, and others for arranging this webinar on a timely issue. The dream of Vaya Vikas is to enable every senior citizen to live their full potential with dignified life. Pavitra has already explained the aim of this webinar to provide a platform for senior citizens to have access to the legal inquiries and provide support through Vaya Vikas. Now, a few weeks back, Vaya Vikas had organized a national health conclave to deliberate happy and healthy aging. And today is the event in continuance of the said program. Today, we are looking into the main issues of senior citizens, that is, the abuse they suffer and the law and solutions to the problems. The phenomena of population aging is becoming a major concern all over the developing and developed nations. India is not immune to this demographic change. According to a report of the Technical Group of Population Projection in India, as of 2021, there are approximately 138 million senior citizens aged 60 plus. And this number, according to the HelpAge India, will go up to 183 million by 2026. Incidentally, out of this 138, 67 million are male and 71 millions are females. It is to be noted that the traditional norms and values of Indian society laid stress on maintaining the dignity of elderly persons and provide care for them. Our morning prayer used to be Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, and then Acharya Devo Bhava, then lastly God. But in the present era, unfortunately, due to the so-called modern and more civilized approach, and especially in India, due to the withering of joint family system and emergence of mononuclear families due to various reasons, to a large extent, older persons are suffering from neglect, loneliness, health conditions, financial issues, etc. In addition to various kinds of abuses from family members. As such, aging has become a major challenge. Now let us see what are the abuses senior citizens face today. Broadly, following are the main abuses noticed by me in general, and particularly during my tenure as the chairman of Maharashtra Human Rights Commission during 2013 to 2018. The first one is the neglect. Probably, this is what most of the elders face during their advanced age. Once the elderly person retires from the job or no longer is an earning member or is incapacitated due to old age ailments or some disease, the younger generation starts treating him as a burden on the family and he is totally neglected. This neglect can be in the form of not providing proper food. He may require medicines, his day-to-day needs, or even small amount of money he may personally needing for himself. He is treated as just a burden and is given a sense that he is no more wanted in the family. Now, the second abuse noticed is emotional abuse. For the very same reason, that elderly person is unable to contribute financially or cannot do day-to-day normal work in the house. The elderly person is inflicted mental pain, fear, or distress by verbal insult, humiliation, intimidation, calling him by names, etc. creating a sense of burden upon the family on the elder. Now, the third abuse is what is called as financial abuse. Once the elderly person stops earning and has to depend on his children for simple day-to-day financial requirement, apart from not providing money, most of the time he or she is insulted or humiliated by saying that while working, he or she has not saved enough money for the family or built a good house, so that now he is demanding it. Another type of financial abuse is illegal or unauthorized use of an older person's resource, like pension or properties earned by him, taking advantage of the trust reposed by the elderly person, or cheating and taking away money or property of the elderly person. One example I can give, while I was in Maharashtra as a Human Rights Commission chairman, a case came before me that an old man, around 60 to 70, after retirement, had got a sum of rupees nearly 70 lakhs, other benefits, etc., retirement benefits, etc. And immediately, the moment he got the money, his son started treating him very nicely, took him to his house, provided good food, etc. And within a day or two, asked him to deposit the money in the bank. And cleverly, he got a joint account in his name as well as the name of the father. And in collusion with the bank, within a week or so, he cleaned the bank account and threw out the father. Father was wandering here and there, and some NGO took pity and brought him to us. And then we found that this was a case of financial abuse. Of course, we should notice to the bank because of their negligence or possibly collusion with the son, allowing him alone to withdraw the money. And then steps were taken to get that money back to the old person. Now, the third, next abuse, what I find was physical abuse. Apart from humiliation, insult, or neglect, many times elderly persons are physically harmed, ranging from physical pain to even death. Added to this, if the elderly person is suffering from sickness, by not providing necessary medical help also can be treated as physical abuse or neglect. In this regard, I would like to state that these abuses are particularly more stressful even to the elderly women who are uneducated or confined to home only and have no independent source of finance and are totally dependent on their children. There are a number of instances where the elderly woman of the family becomes worse than a servant or even a pet in her home. A few years back in Bangalore, I had seen one incident where very educated, highly educated person had whose mother had a property worth about crore rupees, and he was pestering her to transfer the property in his name. And when she refused earlier, she was kept in the garage of the house, and only the contact with the family was through a servant who used to bring food and give her, or even none of the either the son or the daughter-in-law or even children talked with that lady. And this is what happens for that poor lady. So this is most of the time the elderly person, especially women who depend upon children, become burden to the family Now, broadly, these are the various types of abuses I have noticed as a judge and as the chairman of Maharashtra Human Rights Commission. I always think when a person is earning and looking after their familial needs, he is treated as the karta of the family or yajamana. But the moment he retires and stops earning, how can he be treated as a burden? Similarly, the elderly woman in the family, in the house, who works almost 24/7 to prepare food, keep the house clean, look after the needs of the every family member, suddenly becomes burden and being ill-treated. Of course, this does not happen in every family, but such mindset does happen, and that is why the elders feel to leave the home and recourse to some old age homes or even are sent forcibly to such institutions, and then they are forgotten by the family. This is all about the abuses suffered by senior citizens. In the next part, I will speak about the law on this subject.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the valuable inputs and to help identify what are the different kinds of abuses that a senior citizen faces. I would like now to turn to Dr. Soumya Hegde. Dr. Soumya, could you just give us a little bit of details on how do we recognize abusive situation in a household? And also maybe with a few examples on what people should be looking out for when we say abuse itself. You're on mute. I'm sorry.
Okay, I was just saying that thank you. Thank you for the introduction, and also thank you for this opportunity to present on this platform. I think just creating awareness about this topic is in itself a huge leap forward in the right direction. And as you rightly said, can you hear me?
Could you please turn it up a little bit, the volume? It's very low.
Okay, is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So while I was just thinking, what am I going to talk about today specific to this topic? I was trying to understand what is abuse referred to in Kannada or in Hindi. And very interestingly, in Hindi, when you Google what is the Hindi word for abuse, it just says gali galoch, gali dena. Or if you ask Google for what is the word in Kannada, it says nindane. So it's a very restrictive definition by itself. And I think the word in English is able to capture so much more than we are able to capture the different forms of abuse in our country, which is perhaps something that is worth reflecting upon when we are trying to create awareness, because you can't use one word then to create awareness about this, because it's so many different types of abuse. And whereas in English, they all come under the same heading, here in India, in different languages, they unfortunately don't, which makes it much, much harder to recognize. So as, Justice Banurmat put, we often come across cases of financial abuse. We are very clear, we know what this is. We see physical abuse, somebody being beaten up, chained, restrained, denied food, medication. These are very clear cut, they're very, you can recognize them easily. But let me give you an example of, what I mean, and where the boundaries are a little blurred and you're not sure what this is, okay? And I'll just leave it with the audience to think about it. There's this lady who I've known for a few years because I was treating her father and then her mother. So they were both my patients, and she would bring both of them, and she's been taking care of dad and mom for over 10 years now. The dad had dementia and later passed away a couple of years earlier. Today, I was just speaking to her about her mother, and during the course of the interaction, this lady, the daughter, is divorced. She was in a very abusive marriage where she stayed for very many years until the kids turned 18, which often happens. She wanted to stay in that marriage even though it was abusive because the kids were little. So finally, when the kids became adults, she found that it was hard for her to continue in that relationship. She decided to seek a divorce, which she managed to get. And the kids decided to stay with the father. And she, kind of accepted, fine, this is the way it is. And she made peace with all of this. She tried to build her life together, went back to stay with her parents who were supportive. And as I said, has been taking care of her parents ever since. Now, we have the son and daughter who are now in their late 20s, who have their own issues in life and constantly berate their mother. They blame her for all the wrong things that are happening in their life. If they're not able to hold a job, if their relationships don't work out, it's all because of how you and dad fought all through our childhood. And that is why we are bearing the repercussions of your behavior, your decisions and choices in life. So she has to hear this all the time. They blame her for, for everything. They blame her for not getting a job. They even go to the point of telling her that if we end up committing suicide, we will leave a note to which blames you for the act that we have done. So you will be held responsible if we commit suicide. So there's this woman who is finally trying to put her life together, walked out after an abusive marriage, and this is what she's facing at the hands of her children, grown-up children who are in their late 20s, as I said. So what would we call this, and what would we do if we as a society see this happening? What can we do? Is there a legal recourse for this? What can be done for this woman to help her? She is being abused, which is very clear under the definition of emotional and psychological abuse. This does amount to abuse. So this is one such example that I wanted to share. There are many, many such which we don't realize when we interact with people in a society, in a community, that, who is the perpetrator and what does the victim think? I think you have other questions for me, Pavitra, so I don't want to step beyond this, but I think in answer to your first question as to, how do we recognize abuse, I think what is important is to look at any situation where the person feels that they are being attacked. They feel uncomfortable. They are not comfortable with the kind of interaction that is happening between them and their children, them and their spouse, them and whoever is the perpetrator. They are scared. They feel threatened. They feel that they are in a position of, they are vulnerable. That amounts to abuse. That feeling itself amounts to abuse.
Thank you, Dr. Soumya. That was very succinctly put. But again, I'll come back to the questions in a little while. Dr. Sir, this is for you. Now we raised the issues about water abuse and everything else. So in law, we have something called as Maintenance Act, which many people don't know about. So could you throw a little bit of light on this? And how, like what Dr. Soumya said, how can they fight against this abuse?
Now, as I said earlier, withering of traditional norms and values in the Indian society and replaced in most of the cases as mononuclear families contribute to various reasons. Large number of elderly persons, parents are not looked after, and consequently, many elder persons are now forced to spend their last few remaining years in misery, being subjected to various abuses. Thus, aging has become a curse and it has become a major social change. Article 41 of the Constitution of India is one of the directive principles to the state, which declares the rights of senior citizens. Even the Human Rights Declaration or fundamental rights do state that every person, that includes elderly person, should be able to live with dignity, security, and should be free from exploitation, mental or physical abuse. Now, in order to provide for effective law for maintenance and welfare of the parents and senior citizens guaranteed under the Constitution, in the year 2003, almost 20 years back, the Government of India and the Karnataka government had formulated policy for senior citizens. Now, the policy was, the goal of the state policy is to maintain the well-being of the older persons. State shall extend support for financial security, healthcare, shelter, welfare, provide protection against abuse and exploitation. Programs should be drawn for older persons living in rural areas to ensure that they should be provided with equal opportunities. Then a senior citizen shall be provided with opportunities to run active, creative, productive, and satisfying. The policy aims at having an age-integrated society. The state recognizes that elderly persons are also resourceful and render useful service to the family, etc., etc. Now, after this policy was developed, in the year 2007, the Government of India has passed the law, which is called as the Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act 2007. Further, in the year 2009, the state of Karnataka has framed its own rules under the Act. It is to be noted that there is a remedy also provided under the Criminal Procedure Code for claiming maintenance by the parents if they are not provided. But the procedure is highly expensive and time-consuming. Hence, this Protection Act of 2009 is kept simple, inexpensive, and speedy remedy giving. Now, important provisions of this Act are Section 4, forming the central part of the said statute, provides the right to claim maintenance if needed by parents or elderly persons. Section 7 provides for constituting a maintenance tribunal to which an aggrieved senior citizen or parent who has been neglected can approach. Now, this is important, either in person or through any other authorized person on his behalf. It is not necessary that such an authorized person has to be a lawyer. Any person can do that. This is where most of you, in case of needs, may take the advantage of the present initiative by Vaya Vikas or such many other NGOs activities involved. Even the tribunal is given suo motu power. By suo motu, what I mean is, it can, if it is brought to its notice, even through the newspaper items, news items, it can take by itself the decision. Now, the presiding officer of this tribunal is Assistant Commissioner of the district. Therefore, as the section says, there is no need for the older adult to approach the heavily burdened criminal code as envisaged under Criminal Procedure Code. This is the very simplest provision made. So next important provision is Section 5, and the rules under it prescribe the format of the application to be made, which is not that complex one. Very, very simple application to be filed, and then immediately action will be taken. Now, Section 8 provides for the summary proceedings, which is not like cumbersome court proceedings. Just following very minimal procedures, the authority under this law can provide requisite relief without loss of time and not making the proceedings ridden with procedural complexities. If another important section is section 9, which states orders can be passed. What orders can be passed? Now, here I would like to read exactly what are the reliefs can be given to the senior citizen or the victim of this abuse. It is section 9 of the Act. If the children or relatives, as the case may be, neglect or refuse to maintain senior citizen, being unable to maintain himself, the tribunal may, on being satisfied of such neglect or refusal, order such children or relatives to make a monthly allowance at such monthly rate for the maintenance of such senior citizen as the tribunal may deem fit, and to pay the same to such senior citizens as the tribunal may from time to time direct. There are other provisions for medical support, that it is the duty of the state government to ensure that the government hospitals funded fully or partially by the government shall provide bed for the senior citizens as far as possible. Separate queues be arranged for senior citizens, etc. Now, apart from the proceedings before the tribunal, which is almost summary proceedings, there is one important section, is section 24, which is a penal provision, or where it is made as an offense if a senior citizen is abandoned by his family. Now, the Karnataka rules, the entire procedure to be followed is prescribed under the rules, like procedure to be followed by the tribunal, and it includes attempt of conciliation, to bring conciliation between the victim and the family members. One important provision under the rule is Rule 21. It is the duty cast upon the police machinery to protect the life and property of the senior citizens. The police, not less than the rank of superintendent of police, is entrusted with this duty, that there shall be regular check over the senior citizens' welfare, and then they can, if there is a problem, they can report it to the tribunal and take action under the same. Unfortunately, though this law is exhaustive but simple to follow and get the remedy, my experience in Maharashtra is that neither persons, the senior citizens, including other persons or advocates or police, are aware of this duty cast upon them to protect the rights of the senior citizen. As an experienced judge, I do understand how carrying out all these responsibilities envisaged under the Act are really difficult to the already overburdened executives like either Assistant Commissioner or the police. However, we need to understand that there is no way out other than carrying out these statutory responsibilities. This can be achieved by strategic planning, and particularly taking the assistance of technology and help of NGOs like Vaya Vikas. Though a special law is made to protect the interests of rights of senior citizens and prevent abuse, as it happens, most of the time, unawareness on the part of senior citizens, predicament to take recourse to law unless it becomes inevitable, and possibly apathy on the part of some of the government machinery, the object of law has remained somewhat unexplored and unutilized. No doubt, the Legal Services Authority in the state of Karnataka is active. Similarly, when I got the data, some of the assistant commissioners are working towards it. But I am not yet satisfied. And as such, the Law Commission, under my chairmanship, has taken up the issue and will be submitting a detailed report to the government shortly. In my view, the aggrieved senior citizens by themselves cannot make use of the law due to financial or age constraints and are also unaware of the law itself. It is the NGOs like Vaya Vikas who can change the scenario and help the needy and suffering seniors make the remaining years of their life with dignity and help them to die happily and peacefully. Finally, I once again congratulate this initiative of Vaya Vikas. I would like to state to the people participating, they are also welcome to join hands with Vaya Vikas or even the Law Commission in our efforts in preparing a fruitful report to the government. Otherwise, also, I'm always available to help the cause of seniors, being myself a senior citizen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So we have a couple of questions. Before moving on, you were just talking about the Maintenance Act. I would like to know, how can senior citizens raise anything on this? Do they have to go to the police? Do they have to go to the legal lawyer? Whom do they have to approach for the Maintenance Act to be enabled? Sorry, sir, you're on mute. 1 minute. Sir, you're on mute.
Now the maintenance tribunal has been constituted under the leadership of, under the head of assistant commissioner. Anybody, it need not be the senior citizen itself. Any person on his behalf can approach if it is noticed that particular senior citizen is abused or maintenance not maintained properly, or even NGOs. Unlike the court proceedings, there is no need of lawyers being present. Any person can simply fill a format which is given under the Act, and approach also.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Soumya, this question is for you. People get hesitant when they talk about legal and all of that. So how do you think seniors should approach this matter? Usually they wait till it's the last resource before they go to file a legal case. But how do you think in a family, if you're staying together, they can be, I mean, you should have seen now, people ask you this question, how do you in a family setting be able to go out of it and still file a case?
Okay, I think one of the biggest issues with filing a case is that, you get involved in that legal system while you're still living in that house. And that is the biggest fear. So often the victim wants to understand how can they get help and freedom. And this can usually be done by just facilitating communication amongst the members of the family and trying to find some way to minimize the extent to which the problems are and finding other practical solutions. Now, when does it happen? It could be financial. That is definitely one of the biggest reasons for abuse within households. But it can also happen if the perpetrator is not aware. Sometimes that can happen. The perpetrator is just not aware that what I'm doing is something that is affecting my mother or my wife so badly. They don't know. Third, it could be that there is a mental illness which needs to be treated, which can be treated. Fourth, it could be a personality issue, which may not have a treatment, but nonetheless, it becomes inconducive for the other person, the victim, to continue in that relationship. So I think when you talk about what can someone who is in this situation do first before they reach or file a case, I think they need to reach out to a helpline, or which the helpline, the elders helpline numbers are available. It's a free helpline service which is currently available all over the country. Speak to somebody, see who can be their ally, who can be a arbitrator for them, and understand what would happen if they went down the legal route. That is also some clarity that they need. Let's say that they do file a case. What happens next? What's the very next thing that will happen? Will the police come and immediately pick up this guy, the husband in this case, or the son, and put him in jail overnight and then release him the next day on bail? What happens then? Until the case, I think Justice Banurmat can answer these questions better than me, because these are the questions that I get asked. If I do file a case, and the police as normal will pick him up, take him, beat him up a little bit, tell him don't do this again, and then he comes back home and the whole story continues again. So I have patients who have been referred to me or have self-referred for anxiety, who have run away from other states, are living in Karnataka under a different identity, have not shared their number with anybody apart from 2 people, are scared to get out of their apartment complex, get on any social media, because they don't want their spouse in whichever state coming here. So it is, the legal recourse is available, but I think before we go down the legal route, that clarity on what will happen, and if there is not much clarity, then what can we do to support this individual within their home? Who can be their ally? There might be one child who's a perpetrator. Can we find another child who's not, or a cousin, or a nephew, or a niece, or somebody? What kind of outlook can I present to this person if I were to empower her to make this decision on her own? And I think that has been my goal in most cases, to empower the victim itself to take a positive step, to give them the resources, to give them the emotional resources and the practical resources in terms of directing them to the right people who can guide them on what they can do to help themselves first. If all that fails, or we can't proceed, then of course we have no other recourse but to go legal. Is what I would say. I think Justice Banurmat, you can add to that if there is anything.
As I said, there's an action plan under the rules that District Superintendent of Police, in the case of cities like Bangalore, Police Commissioner shall take necessary steps. And each police station is required to maintain a list of senior citizens of the area. And then the police stations, in jurisdictional police stations, are required, or even social workers are required to visit these senior citizens registered, kept in the names registered. And then if there is a problem, they can report it to the Assistant Commissioner or the tribunal. And then tribunal takes issue. Now, as you are saying, general terms, that person is put behind bars, and no, that doesn't happen. Now, immediately Assistant Commissioner will issue a notice, and conciliation efforts will be made first. If that conciliation fails, then other steps will be taken, like awarding maintenance, and it becomes a decree like. It is enforceable by law. If doesn't pay the maintenance, it is enforceable by law. So it is not as if but the difficulty is, as I said earlier, we are finding that the police machinery is so busy with the other things. Then this is what we are looking into presently. Now, whether they are doing it properly or not, or issue guidance or directions to all the police in the Karnataka to maintain the register, to look into the, meet the persons every month, senior citizen, etc. In fact, we make the law or we suggest the law. It is best is Human Rights Commission. That's my experience. You can just drop a letter to the Human Rights Commission that this is the abuse I'm getting. And immediately Human Rights Commission takes up the case of such aggrieved persons or victims and tries to settle. If not, then directs the government to take appropriate action.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Soumya. There are a couple of questions, but I think you have answered it indirectly, but I'll just raise it here. How far the legal remedy is helpful when the family relationships are totally spoiled? This is by Mr. Lakshmi Narayana.
Legal remedy is the only remedy available then. Now, recently I got the data also. The assistant commissioners of various districts in this state, the number is, I'm not sure what kind of orders they have passed, but it is good. Out of 600 or 700 cases, almost 400 cases have been decided by the, I am yet to look into the orders passed, but machinery is working. If the total relationship is totally spoiled, then you have to come out. The elderly person has also to take up his right, or any person on his behalf, any person who knows the plight of the senior citizens, he can approach the authorities.
Thank you, sir. I think it leads into the next question, which you just answered. In some cases, the abused are not willing to lodge a complaint due to emotional and fearful reasons. In such scenarios, how do we go about? So this is, I think, like you said, somebody else in the family can raise it for them.
Yeah. Anybody, not only somebody in the family itself, any person knowing the plight can approach the tribunal or even NGOs. If it is brought to the notice of the NGOs, NGO can take action. Only the victim did not be, proceeding. Anybody can do on her behalf or his behalf. If the relationship are totally spoiled, then he has to grow and come out unless he is incapacitated.
Right. So I think this is another question that relates to the same thing, but what I understand is moving from joint family to nuclear family is the reason for abuse. How will the law help to reverse the situation?
That is a difficult one. That is a difficult one. But again, if it is mononucleus also, the tribunal can pass order for paying maintenance and look after. Need not stay in the house. If he wants to stay outside, fine. Maintenance amount will be awarded and it will be enforceable that every month he has to pay certain amount. That solves the problem.
Dr. Soumya, what would you say for this nuclear family, staying with the family?
So yes, as Justice said, from a financial point of view, yes, I think that is where there are problems. But if it's an emotional and psychological abuse, then moving from a joint to a nuclear family is the solution. Because then, if the perpetrators of the abuse are the kids or the daughter-in-law feels this abuse from the mother-in-law and all this, the joint family system has sometimes been more difficult. As you know, that during COVID, we saw a lot of abuse within families because everybody was, forced to live together for long periods of time with no outlets at all. So I think it works both ways. Certain forms of abuse may be more in joint families. Certain forms of abuse may be more in nuclear families. So I think reversing it or not allowing the natural trend or process to happen, which has happened naturally. Now, as Justice said, I think I completely understand. If they have moved out, they still have to provide maintenance. They're still liable to do that. So if that is taken care of. But yes, in terms of, okay, if they are not tending to their parents' needs, they are neglecting, they're facing neglect, nobody's there to buy them medication, nobody's there to take them to a doctor to understand what their medical needs are. That is where we as a society have to step in, right? As the government has to step in, has to provide facilities for elderly, which is not dependent on children or spouse, which is just individual. You as an individual can seek this help from anybody and it is available to you. And I think that's what Vaya Vikas is trying to do, right? Empower seniors to be able to look after themselves with the help of organizations like Vaya Vikas and not be dependent on other people and therefore more susceptible to abuse.
Yes, sir.
One more thing I would like to mention under the powers of the tribunal. Supposing financial cheating is there, like selling the property without the knowledge of the senior citizens, the tribunal can order reverse it. Sale deed will be cancelled and property will be given back in the name of the elderly person also. That's one of the more important one. One more factor I was noticing regularly is especially when children go abroad and get married and then start neglecting the parents if they here. Either they neglect totally, who have no income or something, but many times there are examples noted, probably doctor will be able to tell also factually, that they get them abroad and then they treat them as servant or slave. They cannot go back, they cannot maintain their properly, and literally they are treated as slaves. That's how that is also, I'm working on that. How to solve that problem. This is a more recent phenomenon it's going. Take the parents to the abroad under the guise of visiting or tourists or looking after the newly born child, etc. And then once they land there, they are in trouble. That aspect we are going to look into also.
You wanted to say something, Dr. Soumya?
No, I was just thinking that is such a fascinating discovery and a new dimension to abuse completely, because they are even more helpless in a foreign country.
Yeah.
It's the US or UK, maybe the English language is common, but in so many European countries they can't even communicate in English, right? So
Absolutely.
they are so trapped, they can't even go to a local shop and say what they're going through. So it is very, very difficult.
This is unfortunately happening. That's
So this is another question. I'm not sure you can answer this properly, but why does the central government not passing the Amendment Act, though it is with them from 2019? This is for the Maintenance Act amendment papers that were submitted.
yeah. And that's a parliament will of the people. Unfortunately, somebody has to file a writ petition in the Supreme Court to enforce the government to make the law. But you can't, even the courts can't force the executive to pass a law. So it is the will of the people and the other persons in the society has to bring it to the notice and agitate practically that this is what is required. Oh, that's why I said, so far as Karnataka is concerned, we can suggest certain amendments. That's what we will be doing it, where it should be properly done or not. But central legislation, we have no jurisdiction. National Law Commission can do it. Again, if it is to be brought to the notice of the National Law Commission.
So this is another question. What protection one will get if he or she takes up the issue of a senior citizen not related to them?
He's free to do it. Any person can take the issue. That's what I'm repeatedly saying. Need not be the victim herself or himself.
I
Nothing,
think
no consequence.
they want to know if I am going to report abuse that I see that my neighbor is going through.
Yeah.
What protection will I get?
Oh. There is a protection provided. You can ask for the protection if you are being threatened or anything. IPC is there. Indian Penal Code is there. Police action is there. Regular criminal law is there. You can take help of that. If you are being harassed by the family members for taking the cause of the victim, the police protection has to be provided.
So,
And our rules also say that. That is the mandatory duty of the police.
So just to relate, they can also raise it anonymous, no, sir, because this is only to the tribunal and it's not actually going into the legal system. It could be an anonymous call which can be handled.
Pardon, once again, tell me.
Can it be an anonymous call that somebody places to say there is this situation happening? Would that be dealt with, or does that person have to be physically going and raising a complaint?
Normally, anonymous petitions are not entertained anywhere, because to verify it will be again a big job. Anybody can, in the name of anybody, give a complaint just to harass the family itself. So that anonymous call generally is not appreciated or accepted also. Human Rights Commission also doesn't accept anonymous calls unless you give specifically name, though it will be kept secret. But you can't give under the guise of anonymity, give a complaint. That will be opening Pandora's box. Anybody can file, give an anonymously letter against anybody and harass that family itself, though there is nothing in the family, no problem in the family. So anonymous should not be. That should be avoided always.
But the person who has complained, as long as it's verified, their name can be kept out of the whole complaint and everything else.
And the third person who is looking after this, I have to look into that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But this under the rules, I think there is some protection given. I'm not sure, but I will look into that and I can let you know
I was
about it.
literally asking because I think that's the hesitancy that most of us have when we want to get into either legal or police complaint or something, because we are scared with like, we will be harassed because we went and filed a human right issue.
Everybody has its own duty towards the society. You can't just under the guise of I'm being afraid of possible harassment. See, the rights of the people, it is everybody's duty to do it. You should not be hesitant. Or if it is there, that's what Dr. Aska also. If somebody harasses you because of giving complaint, straight away police action can be taken.
Correct.
You can go to the police and police will take action.
Thank you, sir.
Right.
I think this is one of the other questions. Is the financial abuse more a criminal act rather than a social taboo?
Pardon?
Is financial abuse more a criminal act?
Yeah.
So can they file it as a criminal act rather than as through maintenance act?
That will be, that's why I said this law is made because the criminal action is a cumbersome, expensive. You have to engage an advocate, pay the fees, and it takes years and years, unfortunately. Now here, that if the financial abuse is there, the tribunal is entitled to take action. That's what I mentioned. If the property of a senior citizen is illegally sold or purchased under some fake name, and it is brought to the notice, the tribunal can reverse, set aside the sale deed and give back the property.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Soumya, for taking all these questions and talking to us. I would like to now introduce about the services that we are launching. Uh, we have Dr. Professor Nandimat, Professor of Law and Chairperson of, we have Mr. Dr. Professor Nandimat today with us. He is a board member. He has published 3 books on environmental law. He is awarded Chevening Scholarship on Environment Management Program and was also visiting scholar at Bradford University. Sir, welcome to the event and thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you.
So we would like to talk about the program that we are launching today for the senior citizens and why do you think it's necessary and how can it help?
You want me to go right away, Pavitra?
So you can decide how do you want to talk.
No. See, I just didn't know how
Yeah,
this
that's fine.
sequencing is. Okay. Thank you, Pavitra, for organizing this very important meet, where we get the opportunity to disseminate some information as to what, as Vaya Vikas, in this particular hour we are doing. And before I actually start and go any further, I would like to place on record my sincere gratitude to Honorable Justice Banur Madji for not only accepting our invitation to be part of this very momentous occasion, and Dr. Soumya Hegde, who has given such a wonderful insight as to, the aspect of elder abuse. That is a generic term with which we are discussing. Well, I just would like to, once again start by saying, ladies and gentlemen, Vaya Vikas, when it started, we did lot of exercise as to pitch ourselves rightly. At that point in time, we actually decided, after a lot of deliberations, we had a series of stakeholder consultations, so on and so forth. Then we decided that we are predominantly focusing on 4 important areas rather than, spreading ourselves too thin all across the area of elder care. Those 4 areas being healthcare, legal advisory, advocacy and policy reforms, and finally, active engagement for active senior citizens. In this, healthcare is already been, rolled out, and Pavitra and her team, they are doing very, very well as far as healthcare provisioning is concerned in Karnataka. And today, we would be inaugurating the legal advisory. Well, when I am asking about, or when I'm, actually talking about this legal advisory, people do ask us the most important, simple, straightforward question, namely, when I can avail better services or best services by going to my lawyer, right? Either I can go to my family lawyer or anybody like Justice Banur Madji, who is already available. Then why Vaya Vikas needed to really duplicate this job? What is that we are trying to bring anew as far as this particular initiative is concerned? The answer is simple. We know law cannot be the ultimate solution provider, right? It is, when it becomes inevitable. This is what I was very carefully, listening to the argument. They were saying how far legal remedy is helpful when the family relations are strained. Somebody asked a very, very pertinent question. The answer is very simple. Ladies and gentlemen, law can really be a good solution provider when it becomes inevitable. So we often see, if you go to a lawyer generally pushes you to litigation because that is his profession. I hope all my legal fraternity friends will bail me out for saying it so strongly or so straightforwardly, including Honorable Justice Banur Madji. Because if I'm a lawyer, I always want to earn my livelihood. See, I wanted to extend my professional services either genuinely or otherwise, is it not? So that is why we thought when people do face some kind of a problems, they can really consult via Vikas and try to understand whether it is proper for them to consult a lawyer and try to consider legal remedy as one of the possible remedies. This itself, in a long run, going to really create a distinct status for Vaya Vikas is our belief. Second one is law, although it is a very powerful tool, at a time it acts as bull in China shop. So if you try to take recourse to litigation, it is probably the path where you cannot come back. That is why trying to spend little time, understand the pros and cons of going to the court of law is what you would like to do. If you straight away walk into the lawyer's chamber, nearly minority of lawyers, or I would say seldom you would get that kind of a clear, non-partisan view about law and legal litigation. That is why we thought we can provide. And you may ask even how we being bunch of lawyers can do it. That is why very consciously in our team, we have all academic lawyers rather than hardcore practitioners. And then once we decide, ladies and gentlemen, that law or legal solution is probably the inevitable solution for you, or law and legal solution is the most appropriate solution for you, then we can even help you to find a good lawyer in case you want. And once you have, suppose if there are some of you who have already, let's say, consulted a lawyer and lawyer has given you an opinion, or you are already on, halfway through your litigation, you can very well, touch base with us and try to find out whether you are on a right track or not. This is what we thought we would be doing completely free of service. This is one part of the aspect. And the second one, without taxing your time, much, I wanted to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we have a gala plan or a grand plan of elevating this at 3 levels. The first level of legal services or legal advisory is opening up today. Number 2, the second level, we wanted to really find out from our experience wherever we have some high demand areas of legal advice. Say, for example, out of many what you call as requests we have already received, writing and execution of a will is a very, very, very popular demand with us. So we thought instead of just advising them how to write a will, if we can really provide them end-to-end solution, that is drafting your will after understanding the kind of scenario or situation you are in, and then having that particular will registered for you. If we can provide that as a service, nothing like that. But we wanted in our second phase of evolution, try to take up such high demand areas and try to provide end-to-end what you call as legal solutions, of course, for a moderate or reasonable fees. Compared to market rates, definitely we are going to charge you very, very moderately, but it is going to be end-to-end kind of a solution as far as our members are concerned. And the third level, somebody was asking, my job has been made very, very easy. Justice Banurmat was pricked by a question. Suppose if government is hesitant to bring some kind of an amendment, or even if you today take, they are talking about right of an elder to maintain himself, is it not? That is what you very clearly learned from Justice Banurmat and Soumya Hegdeji. Now that means they are expecting the members of the family still to take care of the elder, not the government trying to step in. So if a senior citizen all his life has really struggled, toiled himself for his family and his country, and he has paid so much of a tax, now he is continuing to pay the tax. how government can abdicate its responsibility. This is a very interesting insight which we need to know. Like Justice Banurmatji was talking, if you are in abroad, alien land, and you have been ill-treated, you absolutely do not know where to go. Should that not be the responsibility of Indian High Commission or embassy there? Because you are a rightful citizen, trying to, help yourself. All these kind of newer ideas require some kind of policy advocacy, some kind of new strategic interventions. It can be filing a public interest litigation and pricking or pushing the government, nudging the government. Or it may be by holding some kind of, let us say, symposia, roundtables, publications, etc. That also we wanted to really do in the third phase. At the end of the day, we wanted to create some kind of a credible and reliable platform where a senior citizens or our members do get helped legally and otherwise also. That is the hope. This is what I just wanted to say. And finally, I wanted to really say, look, without moving an inch out of your armchair, because going out, trying to consult a lawyer, fixing an appointment with him, etc., is going to be a very hard, task for you. But sitting in your own drawing room or bedroom or study, you can just, using the technology, take our assistance. That is yet another very important aspect I wanted to appeal to you. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, before I hand over the baton to Pavitra, the organizer of this event, I wanted to just tell you, make use of our services and also spread a positive word about other elders who may be in a need of such services. Thank you very much. Over to you, Pavitra and Jamuna. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for going over the next steps that we have in our mind to do for senior citizens. I would also like to now introduce our new CEO, Ms. Jamuna Ravi, and ask her to give a statement on what we are planning to do here.
Thank you very much, Pavitra, and thanks, Professor Nandimat, Justice Banurmat, and Dr. Soumya Hegde. I think it's been a fascinating induction for me into this whole arena of what we are discussing. And I really now am more and more confident that the need is there from the kind of questions that I'm seeing from people. And we are working very hard to make sure that we will be able to deliver a solution for all of you that will give the expected outcomes. So I just wanted to just add a couple of things to what Professor Nandimat has already so clearly expressed in our solution that we are planning to launch. We have taken a lot of care to make sure that the system is easy to use. There is confidentiality protected so that, when you ask questions, it is something which is not openly visible to anybody. And that's something which is guaranteed, which is why we've been working to protect the whole customer relationship, and in such a way that the questions will be confidential, right? And to some of the questions that I've seen being asked, I think we will need probably future sessions, as Professor Nandimat has also indicated, something like a will making and things like these will need a separate treatment, and we are already putting them on our radar. And the last but not the least, we also have access to experts like Justice Banurmat, like Dr. Soumya Hegde, who so kindly come to talk to all of you today. So this whole endeavor will only become successful if you people try to use it. And I would really think that that is the key to our success. We would like to see a lot of questions coming up over the next few days, which will help us to validate our workflow and process flow and to build this support system for you in such a manner that you are confident that, that we are the go-to people And we will also be able to put you in touch with the right people when you need them. And I think that is something which everybody was in agreement, like, that we don't want to use law as the first recourse. So we want you to be getting advice which will help you to explore all options. And then if you need to use the legal option, we will tell you uh, how to access an ecosystem which will be researched by us and which will provide you the kind of service that you are entitled to. As Professor Nandimat very rightfully said, all of us and all of you are senior citizens. I'm a senior citizen myself. I became one last year. We have all been paying taxes for a very, very long time, right? And we do have some entitlement in terms of we can expect good service, in whatever way it can be provided to you. So with that, I'd also like to, before handing back to Pavitra, I would really like to thank Pavitra and the team in terms of the amount of effort that they put in putting this together. And of course, Professor Patil, whom she will introduce shortly. And I think it's been a very, very knowledge sharing session that all of us need. And I hope that, all of you will test us and will give us an opportunity to get challenged in providing the kind of service that you are entitled to. Over to you, Pavitra.
Thanks, Jamuna. I would like to now introduce Dr. Patil, Babu Gowda Patil. He's currently an associate professor with B.M. Salgokar College of Law in Goa, and also the director of the Moot Court Society of the college. He is a legal panel head. Sir, welcome to the panel, and a few words from you.
Yeah, thank you. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pavitra. And I thank Justice Banurmat, Justice Michigan Hour, who is also part of the gathering, and I thank Professor Nandimat also for giving brief introduction about the Vaya Vikas. And I thank these Pavitra and the team for providing this elaborate program, introducing this new thing. So today we are launching SCALES, Senior Citizens Access to Legal Inquiries and Support. So this is just a baby step that we are taking towards providing legal support to the senior citizens, because you have already heard Professor Nandimat, he is talking about our future plans. Future plans are definitely going to include a lot more services towards senior citizens. To speak about the SCALES, the whole idea of SCALES germinated a few months back, to be precise, 7 months back, when the trustees of Vaya Vikas as well as the executives thought about providing legal services. One firm belief that we had was that the tech is the future. So we can't do away with the technology. So therefore, we kept technology as our primary source or platform on which we are going to launch this legal service. It is a kind of an ambitious project for us, because general belief is the senior citizens are not tech savvy. So therefore, they may not be able to use the technological platform that we have created for them. Having fully aware about that, we have developed multiple ways in which the senior citizens can contact us with their legal issues. It may be a mere academic discussion which they want to do with us, or it may be a real legal issue to deal with it. So this is the SCALES is about legal inquiries and legal support that we are providing to you all. And this is, again, in the beginning, I want to lay down a caveat, which some of us would understand. Caveat is a kind of a letter in advance, that this is an ambitious project. We have worked on it for last 6 months, 6.5 months. We worked continuously in developing this platform. As I said in the beginning, this is just a mere baby step towards providing legal services. we may falter, we may have some teething problems. So these teething problems, we want the senior citizens to test the platforms so that we can improve the technological part of it. But as far as legal aspect of it, we are already well is designed to provide you legal support. As Professor Nandimat was mentioning, that as we are not hardcore practitioners, and as Jamuna was mentioning, that we have access to multiple sources, resources. Therefore, our solution is going to be multifaceted. Unlike the solutions where if you go to a doctor, you get a solution from a medical point of view. If you go to a lawyer, you get a legal point of view. If you go to a psychologist, there is a specific point of view of solution. But here, multifarious solutions can be thought of, and we have access to these multiple resources. So therefore, I appeal to all the members of Vaya Vikas in particular, and senior citizens in general, to take maximum use of this platform. Professor Nandimat was mentioning about the future plans. I need to add a few plans to that. One is the advocacy for the rights of senior citizens, as Justice Banurmat was mentioning, that why the amendment is not being enforced. Somebody should file a case in the Supreme Court and question why it is not being brought into force. So that if this Vaya Vikas experiment is successful, that would be our next step, where we are going to take up the matters connected to senior citizens advocacy. We can also work, we are planning to work on legal reforms in favor of senior citizens, where we are trying to get maximum benefits to the senior citizens through legal reforms. So I request at the end, I request all of you to take the maximum use of the platform that we are providing. And we are going to improve, as I just mentioned, that please have patience with us as it's being launched now. It will be having some inherent problems. We will overcome them as and when we face them. So thank you very much. And thank you, Pavitra, for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. As mentioned, we do have Justice Nijat Gannavar also with us. Sir, would you like to say a few words?
Good evening, Chairman sir, and all present in the webinar. My question would be regarding effective implementation of the law which has been enacted. So far as my little knowledge goes, it has become a one-way traffic. Most of the times, offenses are committed within the four corners of the four walls. And the perpetrators are the sons, daughter-in-law, or daughters. To safeguard or to protect the prestige of the family, those poor victims don't come out openly and complain about the misdeeds or the harassment done by their own kith and kin. Here, Chairman sir, Professor Justice Banurmat sir can come out with the new novel ideas for effective implementation. Something can be done, either because most of the times for all those offenses, the children in the family would be the witnesses. They'll be knowing. Leave about the small kids, at least the grown-up boys and girls and the family can certainly take up these issues, because it's not like a olden days where always they were scared of their parents. Now these children can do wonderful job in effective implementation, and if any other good suggestions are there from the chairman, because as far as sensitizing or creating awareness is concerned, that is the biggest hurdle for us in implementation of the law. And it is for us to join hands with there are so many organizations. I certainly appreciate the good work that is being done by this organization. And sir can come up with new ideas. He can take up his advice and let it be a new venture for us to get some innovative ideas for implementation. Otherwise, any number of laws that we are going to make would be of no use. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining in, sir. And as Justice Banurmat said, he's already working on some of the amendments that needs to be done. So I'm hoping that he'll be able to make the changes that you're talking about. I would like to quickly, yes, sir, go on, sir. You're on mute, sir.
Sir, you need to unmute yourself.
Justice Nijigandawar, who spoke now, himself is a member of my team of Law Commission. Recently he has joined. And we'll work together.
And Pavitra, he was my professor also. So we needed to somehow see that he is also roped
He is also involved in
into
that.
our team, so that, you know, he can be a very useful resource for all our members.
Yeah, I think that's the point we're trying to make here with all of you being here, that only when people from all walks of life and people with all experience come together, we can enable something like this, which will benefit the senior citizens. And I'm hoping that with the launch of scales and the legal process, we are able, it's the first step that Vaya Vikas is taking towards this. And we'll definitely need help of Justice Banurmat, Justice Nijigandawar, Dr. Soumya Hegde, and people like this to take it to the next level. I'll just quickly show how people can reach us on this service before we close, so that anybody who wants to ask any questions or wants to know how to reach us can quickly see this. It's very simple. You can go to our site, vayavikas.org. You can click on the legal. And you have this form to fill. You would already, it will be pre-filled with your name, your email address, and your phone number. All you will have to do is add a message on what is your question. And when you ask this, it will go sit on our CRM system, which is headed by Dr. Patil. And they will come back to you, reach out to you, and talk to you on the issue that you have raised and what could be the recourse, what could be the next steps that can be taken on this. It's a very simple process. We have tried to keep it as simple as possible. And there are multiple ways to reach us. If, like Dr. Patil was saying, you're not computer savvy, you don't want to use the laptop or phone to reach us through and raise a query through that, you can always send us an email, or you can WhatsApp us, or you can call us. There are multiple ways you can come here and raise the issue, and we will try and support it and get your answers that you're requesting from us. We do have the panel, like you just met all of them, who are willing and are here to help with any questions that get raised by all of you. With that, I would like to close the session today and by thanking Justice Banurmat to come on this on a very short notice and talk to us and help us in understanding what is an abuse, what is maintenance law, and how we can get any help from the law. Dr. Soumya Hegde, who has come on board to talk to us about how do you identify an abuse and how complex a simple thing like a word like abuse can be in a family setting. I would like to thank Professor Nandimat for putting the whole system together to help senior citizens get the help they need, and our CEO, Ms. Jamuna Ravi, for enabling all of this. So thank you everyone present here, and please reach out to us and be patient with us when we're trying to set the system. And we hope you'll all get your answers from us. Thank you very much for joining in today.